Hello, beauties. So it was about 2 weeks ago where I had made this little video and I was gonna share it with everyone. And the video was me sharing this moment of feeling the importance of accepting and being okay with when you're in a time in your life where you just don't want to give, when everything in you is just like urging you to go inwards, to receive, to slow down, and to take those tendrils of desire and drive and action that I feel we're constantly sending out into the world, and just reeling those in. And that's a really valuable time in our lives, and how I feel like traditionally winter is a time when that is happening. It's a time when in places that are cold and icy, and that naturally the energy of the trees and the plants, they go into the roots and they slow down. And so I didn't send that video out, and because life just kept going faster and faster, and the next day, 2 days later, I ended up getting really sick, and I was just plowed into this downward descent into slowness and stillness. And it got to the point where I was hardly able to breathe, where my lungs, I ended up getting pneumonia, so my lungs were actually filling with liquid and I could hardly breathe. I was just this panting mess all night. And it was just such an interesting journey, because part of our breath, and what happens with breath is breath also gives us the capacity to give, in a way that our outward breath is something that we're constantly giving, and we're receiving, and we're also giving. And I was in a point where I wasn't even able to take deep breath. I wasn't able to receive deeply. And so that process also meant that I wasn't able to communicate, that speaking took too much effort, that my lung capacity couldn't even speak. And so I just have these wisps, or these like quick little breaths, and I had to choose my words really, really wisely. And it even got to the point where I was unable, like I could stand for a couple moments and I'd have to sit down, and I'd find myself in the shower sitting down curled up as the water was pouring on me. And so why I share this story is what happened for me in this process. Because at first I've had all these launches I'm preparing for, and I was really had this structure and the schedule, and I was like really gung-ho. And what ended up happening was I had to completely surrender and completely be okay with what was happening, and go into my internal reservoir of healing and practices, and what happens during these times when life becomes really, really uncomfortable to be in our own bodies. And the journey of finding that strength, or finding that sense of calmness, is quite a powerful one. And so I realized it kind of reminded me of my process with giving birth too. And now at the beginning of my birth process, I was very like on the outside. I remember being like almost like out of dismay, like, oh, I just need to go to the bathroom. And it was kind of this very almost like surface experience. And I felt like this with my sickness. It was like, okay, this is what I'm feeling like, can't do this, blah, blah, blah. It was very surface. And when I really started getting into the magic of the medicine that was available was when I started listening to what's beneath the surface. How can I go into this deeper part of this deeper reservoir of my own like life force that's beneath the surface? How can I start calling on my guides, start sending my prayers out, remembering to pray, remembering for guidance, remembering that these times of vulnerability also are great times of power. And I remember just learning, like in that discomfort, in those times when I was just lying in bed all night trying to just breathe, and I remember finding this point where I was able to still myself beneath the breath, and to know that sometimes in life, the rhythm that surround us, or even in this case, my heartbeat, I had a really high heartbeat. So my heartbeat was going really, really fast. My breath was going really, really fast. And that I didn't have to be my heartbeat. I didn't have to be my breath. That in life, we have these opportunities to reevaluate and connect with something that we're also choosing. And at that point, I want to slow down, and I want to choose to bring my body into that slowing down. And so I started meditating, and I started finding ways of correlating my experience to different things in my life. And so I'm sharing that with you because obviously I'm talking now. I can talk a little longer. I can share this medicine with you, but I just want to make sure that each of you remembers that, well, firstly, to pray. That was a huge one for me. Like, if you are in a place of confusion, like just the act of sending a prayer for clarity. Sorry, my phone's like precariously balanced on a cup. Sending a prayer out is one way of actually shifting into expansion, shifting yourself into a vibrational space of willingness for something beyond you. Especially when your health is being affected, is our own body's capacity is asking us to source from someplace that maybe hasn't been ourselves. Maybe. So I'm gonna leave. I feel like, let's see if the invisibles want to say anything on this. It's like this image that they're showing me is this image of like watching a vessel fill with water. And sometimes in life and I'll see if I can pull this together for you guys because it's a little complex. Or they're showing me this image of like watching this, just say you're really thirsty and you've got this chalice and it's at this beautiful spring. The spring is just dripping, like drip by drip and drip. And sometimes in life, it's important for you to realize that you have two choices. You can go and just put your head under that spring and like start, take that little bit of life force, that little bit of water, just start quenching in those subtle ways. Or you can find a way of being patient and sitting down and being with the filling of this cup, so that once this cup is filled, you get to really be with that abundance, be with that full go, be with that full receiving, and it's up to us to choose, how do we want to live our lives? Are we willing to be patient? And yes, we might get the exact same experience, we might have the same amount of drops in that cup, but the process of just receiving, like just a teaser, sometimes actually in the end doesn't actually nourish us. And so in life, the importance of finding ways of being patient and willing to source from our internal world as things progress before us. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just wanted to share that, and I hope you're all finding ways of slowing and stilling where needed. Enjoying this winter magic.